My folks are sending me to a fat camp against my will for the entire summer. I'm 14 years old, a regular kid living in New York State with my mom and my stepdad. My real dad passed away before I was even born, so it was just me and my mom until I was about 10. That's when she met a guy named David. They tied the knot around 2 years ago, and from then on he's been my stepdad. I don't hate David and he doesn't hate me. In fact, I'm glad my mom found him because she was so lonely when I was little. He makes her happy and he's actually a really good man. Back then we didn't have much money at all, but he runs his own business, earns a good living, and takes care of my mom so she doesn't have to work herself to the bone. He's never yelled at me or picked fights, and we've never had a real argument. Still, there's always this bit of awkwardness between us at home. Even though we both try to be decent to each other, we don't have a whole lot in common. But I want to make it clear that I honestly think well of him, especially since I know plenty of people have way worse relationships with their stepdads or stepmoms. I'm big, really big, always have been. Last year I was the tallest kid in my class but also weighed close to 260 pounds, which is obviously a lot, and I'm fully aware of it. My weight doesn't bother me though. I actually like being big. The only real downside is how it affects my chances with girls. But honestly, that just makes it easier to spot the shallow ones right away. I have zero interest in eating healthy and I think about food pretty often. I've tried diets before, but they just made me deeply miserable. It's not that I'm lazy. I work hard in school and put in effort with everything else. I just don't care about my weight. My mom worries about it more than I do, and while she never nags me harshly, she brings it up a lot. She'll casually suggest I go to the gym with her or she'll fill the kitchen with nothing but healthy food that doesn't fill me up. A few weeks back we went to the doctor and he started giving me a lecture about how important it is to eat right. Then today, the very last day of school before summer break, my mom and David sat me down. They reminded me about the doctor's visit and told me they were sending me to a health camp from the start of June all the way to the middle of August, the whole summer. When I looked it up, it turned out to be just a regular fat camp. I was crushed. I begged them not to send me, but they told me it was already paid for and that I was going no matter what. I'm not the kind of kid who yells at his parents, but I just couldn't keep the conversation going after that. I went straight to my room and cried. Later on I came back downstairs and as politely as I could I asked if there was any way I didn't have to go. But again they said no. I asked them why they were punishing me, and they told me this wasn't a punishment. I walked away again because if I stayed any longer I was going to start yelling, and I really don't want to yell at my parents. Legally they can force me to go. In the middle of the summer I'll be turning 15, and I'm supposed to get on a plane to get there, but can they actually make me board a plane? I mean, I get it if I was 10 or younger, but I'm a teenager now. This is my last summer before starting high school, and it feels stupid to waste it like this. At 14 or 15, shouldn't they need my consent? First update, I'm still at home. I've had a bunch of talks with my parents, but they're not changing their minds. I even thought about leaving home for a bit, but decided against it. I've tried to keep my cool, but honestly, I'm really mad at them for doing this, and I definitely think less of them than I used to. It's like they couldn't care less about what I think. I looked up the camp, and apparently nobody there actually loses weight. Not that I care about that anyway. I'm leaving for camp tomorrow evening, and I'm not excited about it at all. I've been feeling pretty low and haven't had a moment of real joy since this whole thing started. I Googled it, and technically it'd be easy to just not get on the plane, but I still don't want to cause a scene. I've already told my parents straight up that I have no intention of trying to lose weight at camp. Somehow they're now acting like I suddenly want to go just because I said I wouldn't physically fight them over it. But what I think or say clearly doesn't matter to them. I've lost a lot of respect for my parents, and honestly I don't even want to be around them anymore. Either way, I'm leaving tomorrow, thanks to everyone who's given me advice. A lot of people have told me it's impossible to be both fat and happy. But I think those people are wrong. Still, I doubt they'll ever change their minds. Second update, I'm back home now. They sent me to camp at the start of this month. I didn't fight it, but I made sure to tell my parents ahead of time that I planned on avoiding activities whenever possible. They didn't take me seriously. I got on the plane, and later on the bus ride I told the same thing to the counselors. I was polite about it, but I was honest. My whole plan was to use peaceful nonviolent resistance until they let me go home, unless the camp turned out to be completely insane, which it didn't. A few months ago I'd read a book about the civil rights movement and decided to borrow some of their tactics. Obviously my situation was nothing like fighting for human rights, but the method still worked. When I got to my cabin I just lay down on my bed and politely said I wasn't going to take part in the activities. At first the counselors spoke to me kindly, then a little less kindly, and they tried to talk me into joining in, but it didn't work. I was also way too heavy for them to just drag me out of bed. They were good people and I wanted to be polite too, but I kept refusing openly and calmly. Once I was settled in, I didn't show up for anything. Not the opening ceremony, not the classes, not the group meetings, not the fun events, even though none of it was optional. Whenever other kids in my cabin tried to convince me to come out, I just politely refused to talk to them. The counselors warned me that if I didn't participate I wouldn't get lunch or dinner. I told them I figured they'd have to feed me anyway, and I was right. That first night and the next morning I didn't get any food because I didn't go to the dining hall. But then they started bringing me lunch, though it was super healthy and tasted awful. I was bored and hungry, but I kept imagining they'd send me home early. This went on for about 6 days straight. I stayed in bed the whole time while they brought me food. I'd brought some books with me, but they took them away, so all I could do was lie there and come up with ways to entertain myself in my head. It was the most boring thing I've ever done. Around day 6 or 7, not exactly sure which, the camp director or maybe the owner came to see me in person. He was very kind, and I tried to be polite as well, but again I told him honestly that I wasn't going to do anything until I went home. He tried to convince me that deep down I really wanted to lose weight, even though I didn't. The next day he called my parents, and for the first time since I'd arrived I actually left my cabin to speak with them on the phone in his office. They begged me to start participating. We ended up having this weird phone conference with my parents and the camp director, both trying to pressure me into joining in, even throwing in a little guilt, but I just kept calmly refusing. They told me they'd give me 3 more days to think it over. I said it wouldn't change anything, but they insisted. So I spent 3 more days in the cabin, plus 1 extra day after that. Then there was another phone conference, and later that same evening they put me on a plane and sent me home because I had peacefully refused to do anything. And the camp finally realized there was no point in keeping me there. At the end they tried to shame me one last time, but I told them I couldn't feel guilty for simply not doing what other people wanted me to do. I did feel a little bad about making things harder for the counselors and the director, since they'd never been unkind to me personally. But I was incredibly happy I wouldn't be stuck there for the whole summer. Since I got back my parents have been sad and barely talking to me. But the important thing is I'm home and I don't have to suffer through another month of that camp. They even got part of their money refunded since I didn't stay for the full session. I'm thankful for everyone who gave me advice. Even if I didn't agree with them, thanks to all of you I got almost my whole summer back. Third update, is being skinny really that great? I'm 14, weigh about 250 pounds, and I've always been really big. Honestly, most of the time I'm fine with it. It's actually a good way to figure out who's shallow and who's genuinely interested in me as a person, and I don't have to stress over a bunch of things I think people waste way too much energy worrying about. Has losing weight ever truly changed someone's life in a meaningful way? I don't care if I live 5 or 10 years less, and I couldn't care less if people treat me better. I think most of what's said about health is exaggerated, and the social side of it is just complete nonsense. Fourth update, can my parents or my school actually force me to take heart medication? A few months back I had really bad heartburn, but the doctors mistook it for a heart attack. Ever since then I've been made to take some kind of pills at home, even though I don't want to because I've read about the side effects and I don't see the point in taking medicine for a problem I don't even have. From the start I just stopped taking them altogether, but my parents found out and we had a huge fight at home. My parents got in touch with my school, and after talking to the principal they now make me go to the school counselor's office every single morning along with another staff member. They both watch me swallow the pills they say I need. For a while I'd go to the bathroom right after and make myself throw up, but they found out about that too. Now they make me sit there for 20 minutes after taking the pills and drink water. I'm not allowed to go to class if I refuse to take them. How is that even legal? Sorry to ask this here, but I honestly can't find any clear information anywhere about who I can talk to when even the school principal is involved in it. Fifth update. I'm 15 now and I'm absolutely terrified of dying. I once wrote here that I didn't need to lose weight, and I was wrong. Right now I weigh about 275 pounds. 2 days ago I woke up in the middle of the night gasping for air, completely unable to breathe. It's happened before, but never this bad. I woke up choking and it was the single scariest moment of my life. I cried for about 20 minutes afterward. Now I'm ready to change. But I'm still so afraid I'm going to die. I've ignored so many problems for so long. I don't understand any of this. I've had horrible heartburn in the past. And today I tried eating less for the first time in years. I made it about 70% of the day before I couldn't stop myself anymore. My hands were shaking from how badly I wanted food. I've read studies saying that almost everyone gains the weight back after losing it. Exercise feels impossible, eating less feels impossible, and I am just so scared. I really am sorry. I'm trying to read about protein, carbs, and calories, but all the information is so confusing and full of contradictions. I don't want to die. Update number 6. My weight dropped from 275 pounds down to 233. I've posted here before, but now that I finally have some real progress, I figured it was time to share an update. I was 15 when I had a terrible case of heartburn that doctors mistook for a heart attack. Later they found out I actually had sleep apnea. That part was real. I couldn't breathe properly at night and it scared me to death, so I decided it was time to make a change and start losing weight. I focused on three main things. First was calories. I tracked every single one, used an app to help me figure out what I could eat, tried to stick to healthier foods like vegetables and meat, but I still let myself have cookies or candy now and then, as long as it stayed within my daily limit. Most mornings I skip breakfast because I'm just not hungry, then I eat 3 times in the afternoon and evening. That works better for me than spreading meals out all day. I only drank water and I won't lie, that was tough at first, but it made a huge difference in keeping my calories under control. The second thing was walking. I'd put on some music and make myself walk for an hour every day. At first it was brutal, but after a while it got easier, and now I'm even thinking about going longer. Once I started this routine, the weight came off fast. The first week my body felt awful, but then I started feeling good and it's been steady ever since. I'm still losing weight because I'm terrified of getting to the point where I can't breathe again. My goal is to get down to about 200 pounds and then see how I feel. The part that's been the hardest isn't the diet, it's my family. My parents have barely spoken to me for months. They pretty much ignore me. I stopped taking the pills they gave me for the wrong diagnosis, and after that they just decided not to talk to me at all. Even after I started losing weight, they still don't engage. They'll buy the groceries I ask for and will message about what I need, but I cook for myself and maybe talk to them once a week. Short and awkward. They even go out of their way to spend time out of the house so they don't have to be around me, probably home 3 nights a week at most. At this point, I don't even care anymore. I just want to lose more, and when I turn 18 I plan to move out and never speak to them again. I'm counting down the days. I'm posting this update because a lot of people have been messaging me asking how things are going. So yeah, I'm still losing weight and I'm not stopping. Update number 7. After I ran away from that so-called weight loss camp and survived a heart attack at just 15 years old, I dropped the weight and now I'm living the best life I've ever had, going from about 275 pounds down to 170. A couple years back I made a few posts about my struggles with obesity, my rocky relationship with my parents, and how they sent me to that camp against my will. Recently I stumbled across people talking about my story in a Discord chat and figured it was time for an update. I lost all the weight over the course of about a year and a half, but it took me 2 real tries to get there. The first time I dropped around 40 pounds, then about 50 more the second time, but every single time I gained it back and had to start over. Early last year I gave it another shot and that one finally stuck. Since then I've shed every extra pound and even put on a bit of muscle thanks to regular strength training. I'm still not totally used to seeing this new body in the mirror. Sometimes I still instinctively step back a couple paces when I pass by people out of old habit. So here are 4 big differences that made this third attempt work. First, I actually tried less. I know that sounds backwards, but it's the truth. I didn't obsess over losing weight like I had before. That's what kept me from burning out and quitting. I just tracked my calories without going overboard, did some cardio, and lifted weights 3 or 4 days a week. My diet was about 80% healthy food and 20% whatever I wanted. It stopped feeling like a battle. This is a way I can eat for life without feeling like I'm missing out. None of my old diets felt that way. Second, I moved out of my parents' house when I was 17 and stayed with my buddy's family. Losing weight got easier without my parents around. There's a lot I left out of those older posts. I was too young back then to really understand what was happening. I was in denial. Sometimes I was a pain to be around. But my mom and stepdad were not great parents and neglected me more than I realized. Every so often they'd suddenly show up in my life like they were trying to make up for months of being gone. They could disappear for a week or even a month at a time, leaving me alone in a house stocked with nothing but fast food. At the time I thought that was awesome. Now I know it was awful. They weren't abusive in the traditional sense, but they failed at a lot of basic parenting duties, and when they did try, they went completely overboard, like sending me to that camp or giving these big dramatic speeches after months of ignoring me. In the last few months I lived with them, we had a lot of fights. I admitted to my mistakes, but they never admitted to theirs. One day a woman showed up who had been friends with my mom over the phone for 6 years.